Welcome to Best Kept Secrets Travel, Episode 2. My name's Morgan.
And I'm Will, and on this episode, we're going to tell you our first top tips of how to save money whilst you guys are out traveling.
Best friends, and that's for life. Who stay traveling? I'm talking worldwide, 65 countries between the two. Every moment is so unbelievable. Sharing the best kept secrets about the trips and mistakes they made that they can't forget. So tell me if you're ready for a time to remember as they gear up for the next adventure. Yeah. Woo! Best kept secrets travel.
If you enjoy this episode, the best way you can support us is on Best Kept Secrets Travel on podcast platforms, YouTube, TikTok, and the BKStravel on Instagram. Links will be in the description.
Don't hesitate to send us any messages, any questions, any stories you have, or anything you'd really like us to chat about, and we'll try and make sure that we can do it for future episodes. Shall we get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
So there's number one of our best kept secrets of how to save money of traveling is try and travel just with one piece of luggage, making it your carry-on luggage. Morgan and I have done quite a few trips now where we've made sure that we've just taken one piece of luggage. We've even done trips where we haven't even gone with a bag at all and we've just taken a coat and put a few things in pockets. Best thing about taking one piece of luggage is you're saving a lot of money on your flight fees. You're saving so much time in and outside of the airport. And 3, you're actually making yourself less of a target and making yourself a lot more mobile to do adventures and a lot of trips and outings.
And this is really important when you're traveling places around South America or Australia where the distances are just so large that going on bus or train is just too slow. And we went to South America and had about 9 flights between different countries and places, and because of that, if we had holder luggage every time that we actually got on a flight, that would have added £500-600 each easily.
And then on top of that, you're having to get to the airport at least an hour earlier, and chances are you might spend half an hour. I've spent, I think, 4 to 5 hours sometimes waiting for my luggage to get off the plane. And that's all really precious time, which you guys can actually enjoy in the country which you've really wanted to go to, doing excursions. Imagine saving 3 hours in your day. That's extra time in bed. That's extra time you guys having fun in the evening. That's just so much extra time on a holiday where you really want to enjoy it and you don't really want to spend it just in an airport.
And a caveat with this is that you must check what each airline, the size of the carry-on luggage is. I know for us in the UK, Ryanair is very small, so that's no wheels on the bags. Not that we would have wheels on our rucksack, but anyway, but it's still worth it doing this because sometimes you will have it where they will just pick you out and they will say you've got to pay extra because your hand luggage is too big, but that's fine because overall you will save so much more money and everything will go smoother and it'll be so much quicker by doing this.
In a future episode, we're going to go into a whole load of detail on how to achieve this in terms of even going with heavy photography equipment. I think Morgan's been able to travel before with about 12.5 kilo bag where most of the planes only allow 5 to 7 kilo limit, but we're going to teach you guys how to do that. Point number 2 for best kept secrets of how to save money whilst you guys are traveling is how you guys book your flights. If you and your mate really want to book your flight, we mentioned a tiny bit on flights with our planning episode, which is our episode number 1. And if you haven't watched that, please go and watch that before you get onto this because it really helps us and it will help you guys learn as much as possible. But with booking flights, if you and your friend have decided you want to go on a trip, book that flight straight away because the more seats there are on that plane, the cheaper you're going to get that flight, and the earlier you book it, the cheaper you can get it. Another case is trying to book it last minute. I know with Barcelona, we booked our flight literally, I think, 24 hours or 28 hours before we got on it. And that's why we got the deal quite cheap.
So you get, it's basically a mixture between booking it really early and booking it really late. And if you go for one of them, you'll get the best option. The best way to book tickets is either Skyscanner or Google Flights or Jack's Flight Club, which we both use and which is very good, and it sends you emails every week and gives you all the special offers that are at the time. Another big thing with booking flights is don't be afraid of layovers, because layovers can be your friend. So when we went to Australia, we had a layover in Bangkok where we had 9 hours, and I'd been to Bangkok before, but
And I'd never been to Thailand before at all, let alone Bangkok.
and so I knew exactly where we should go, and I took him straight to Khao San Road and we got a massage.
And you guys will hear definitely about that massage in a further episode.
But not for the reason you're thinking. And
No.
You could have been implying
No.
completely different
No,
things there.
disclaimer on the screen now. No happy endings happened.
It's the saddest massage of our life.
It was hilarious, but that, what's still on the screen now, did not happen. One of the things you guys need to remember about if you're trying to take that risk in booking the late flights is you're less likely to get the flight time that you really want. You know, if you desperately want a morning flight so that you land in a certain time, you're taking a bigger risk on that. And also you're taking the risk on if those flights are highly demanded, or if a big natural occurrence or government occurrence happens that people are trying to get out of that country, there is a lot more risk that those flights will get booked up and you will miss your opportunity. But in a lot of times we found that actually taking these more spontaneous events and these trips can be so much more fun.
And with the late flights, I would actually also say be flexible with your destination. So in August 2020, which was when we just come out of sort of lockdown and we were actually allowed to fly places, I tried to go to as many places as I could, and I booked flights to Budapest. And before going to Budapest, I spoke to a Hungarian friend who told me that I wasn't allowed to go there unless I had 2 negative tests. So I then just was like, well, the flight out there was £20. I'm fine with leaving that because I don't think I can get my money back. So I then just had to book a flight to Košice, which is eastern Slovakia, fairly near where I wanted to go, but still close and still a really cool place. And I had to literally change that the day before the flight. And then my return flight was from Vienna. And when I arrived, they then took Vienna off the green list. And I then had to change that flight as well. So I had to change both my flights, the original flights. But it's still, I had one of my favourite trips, like European
But that's the
trips.
spontaneity of the trip, and that's one of the reasons why, if you use Skyscanner, there is a, I don't know if you mentioned it earlier, there is a, instead of actually typing in destination, you can click anywhere, and that will then, for your specified dates or times that you put in, and how many people, that will then break down the cheapest location, well, cheapest country, and then the cheapest city to fly to in that. And that's such a great way of being able to get around Europe and trying to get those really cheap flights.
And we've got to say, actually, we've got to mention lastminute.com, because that is the website that we actually did book our flights and hotel for our Barcelona trip.
So the Barcelona trip we did mention in episode 1, but the main thing about lastminute.com for us was that about 28 hours before we went, we booked Barcelona on this spontaneous trip, and it only cost us £125 return flights with British Airways from Gatwick, including 3 nights in a 4-star hotel, which is just absolutely
With
insane.
free beer tasting.
Free beer tasting in the hotel on top of that. So all in all, we saved so much money, and it was one of my favourite trips that we've done, just because it was so spontaneous and it was last minute trip on lastminute.com. Number 3, best kept secret on how to save money whilst you guys are travelling is transport to and from the airport. A lot of people, when they arrive at the airport, they're quite tired, and in some cases it is the safest and best option to get a completely certified taxi from the rank outside.
I would always say get a certified taxi from the rank outside.
I agree on that. I completely agree. Don't get in an unlicensed taxi. But what I'm saying is that
Find
people...
a random man on... No.
No. What people often forget is that there are so many other options of getting away from the airport. There might even be tuk-tuks, there could be buses, there could be trains,
Turtles.
you could horse and cart. There are so many different options out there, and often these are a lot cheaper than a taxi. Taxi might get you to the more precise location. A bus might just take you to a specific bus stop, or you might be able to book a
You missed
group.
Uber.
There's
Uber's
also
quite a
Uber.
good one.
There are so many different ways to get out of the airport, which saves so much money. I know you've Ubered from quite a few airports when you've solo traveled.
Yeah, so the hardest thing about Ubering, I found when I didn't actually have any mobile data, was actually trying to connect to the Wi-Fi to then get the Uber.
Yeah.
And then it was to go and find, I had to sort of connect.
Where was this?
So this would have been in Peru, and I was trying to connect to the Wi-Fi as long as I can to try and find where the Uber had parked, because often in airports they can't come to exactly where you want them to. And then I knew I was about to leave it, so I sort of guessed where it was, and then I had to check and then just sprint and hope. But luckily the guy found the random English guy who was completely lost, and he found me, and I did get to where I wanted to go.
I know another great example was actually, funny enough, I was in Peru as well. I just got off a flight to meet Morgan out in South America. He'd been out for a few weeks already, and I'd made 2 new friends on the plane, 2 British lads who were also flying out to South America for the first time. Left the airport, we're all really tired. It was in Cusco, so 3,500 meters. We're all shattered just from the altitude. And I asked them, where are you guys heading? They said centre of town. I said, why don't we just share a taxi, because then we're going to cut a load of costs. You know, they saved a third on their taxi bill, and I only had to pay half of what I was going to pay. So that don't be too scared. And actually, that was a lot safer option for me, because they were 2 guys together, so they're quite safe on their own. I was in a continent I'd never been to before.
Language you don't speak.
I was tired. Language I don't speak. So actually, my safest option was going with 2 other guys, and then got to centre of town, said bye, and that was it. But these are the things which you guys need to think about when you're really trying to save money and cut down costs. I know some people out there will hitchhike, and Morgan is going to actually talk about hitchhiking in a future episode when he talks about his amazing adventure across Europe with Red Bull Can You Make It?
Yeah.
But these are things we're going to talk about, and hitchhiking we're not going to publicly push out because there's a lot of risk associated with it.
But privately?
Yeah, privately we might talk about it, but we are going to discuss the overall pros and cons of a lot of these transports.
We're going to give a fair and balanced view and allow people to make their own decisions, because we're not telling anyone to do anything.
Sure. One of our most interesting stories about how we saved money when we're travelling back to the airport at the end of our trip from Australia was Morgan's younger cousin gave us the best and cheapest way to get back.
Which was in Australia, in lots of countries, they have travel cards. So we were able to get an Opal card, which we will talk about more in our Australia deep dive episode, which is actually next. So an Opal card is similar for people in the UK to an Oyster card. And what we were told was that if you run the card down till it has about $1 left, and then swipe in, and then by the time you get to the airport, you swipe out, and it leaves your card on a negative balance of about $9. But what it means is that you can get to the airport from anywhere, in one trip, from anywhere, for $1, which was such an amazing secret. And it's only something that we learned by speaking to a local.
Well, it was your cousin, they're similar age to us, so they were obviously trying to be really nifty with their money, and it was just something which they'd heard maybe on Facebook or from friends. But it saved us so much money rather than trying to get a taxi and costing 30, 40, 60 Aussie dollars. It was such a great way and a super quick and comfy way of us getting to the airport. That's all we've got time for you guys on this episode of Best Kept Secrets Travel Podcast on how to save money. We're doing a series of these episodes, and we can't wait to tell you more tips and tricks in the future.
And if you really like this episode, please press subscribe, because it really helps us out, and it's free, and like and comment.
And ring that notification bell.
And if you're listening to us on a podcast, then remember to subscribe and leave a review, because it really helps us out. And podcasts are really hard to grow. So if you really like what we're telling and think that we're giving valuable information, then please tell your friends. And family and everyone.
Send it to your friends and family. Even on YouTube, there is a save bit. You can copy that URL, send it directly through certain platforms, and it'll help us massively try and grow this platform that we want to use to help you guys. Just a quick point. If you guys really want to tell us your story, you want to ask us any questions, or you want to know any other areas we can give you guys tips and tricks how to save money whilst you're traveling. If you're trying to work out how you can raise funds or cut down costs in really specific areas, ping us a message on our Instagram at the BKStravel. It'll be here on the screen. If you're listening on a podcast, go to our YouTube video, watch the whole thing again, because it will really help us out. But just send us any questions or stories you have. We'd love to hear them. And if you've got a really funny story or just a really interesting story, we'll bring it up in a future episode. Hope to hear from you guys soon.
Roll the outro.
Yeah, let's make it happen. I hope that you can handle going on adventures, best kept secret travels. Yeah, all over the globe, having fun, you know the deal. Amazing secret locations, hang out with Morgan and Will. Educate and entertain, haggle in the market, sharing their experiences. Time to get it started. Let's go.